Today's interview is with James Prendamano. James is out in Staten Island, New York. So he's in a really interesting market. He gives us some insight into what's going on with that market. And it talks about his business and how he's been able to build his business. And he's been in this business 25 years now. And he took over from his mum before that. So they know a thing or two about real estate. But he talks about what it takes to get deals done there and development deals. So it was a really interesting, eye-opening conversation to me, because I know New York can be a really tough market, and I kind of got an understanding today why. There's a ton of terms that I had never heard before, and just a whole bunch of stuff I'd never heard before either. So really, really interesting interview. Stick around for all of that. As always, like and subscribe on Wrestling with Real Estate, the YouTube channel. Go to the WWRE Podcast and give me a 5-star rating and write me a great review, please. It really does help us build this platform. And I'm looking to speak to as many of you as possible. If you're interested in real estate, whatever capacity that is, I'd love to speak to you, get to know you, see if there's any way whatsoever I can help you. So go to the link in the description down below, or go to wrestlingwithrealestate.com and sign up there, and we can hop on a call and have a great conversation. But before all of that, stick around for today's awesome interview with James Prendamano. Hello and welcome to Wrestling with Real Estate, where we look to chokeslam all your real estate problems. I'm your host, former WWE wrestler and now Cirque du Soleil performer, and of course, multifamily real estate investor, Barri Griffiths. Now today we're joined by James Prendamano. How's it going, James?
It's going great, man. How we doing?
How did I do with that surname? Did I mess it up, or did I do okay?
You crushed it, baby. Prendamano.
Prendamano. Okay, awesome. Well, James, thank you so much, man, for being on the show. I'm really excited to jump into today's conversation. It's going to be an awesome one. I know that for sure. But before we dive in, can you give people an idea about your background, what you've been up to, and what your current focus is?
Sure. So background is a family-owned company, Casandra Properties, bears the namesake of mom. Company was founded in 1989. Not exactly the best time to go out and open a real estate company, with the market being what it was in New York back then. But that's mom. She was in the business she would deny it, but 20 years prior to that. And, she's always been a trailblazer. She was kind of the first female to do the big commercial deals out here in Staten Island and bring land leasing and some of the deal structures that were more complex. She had introduced to the Borough back in the, I'd say, mid-90s. And I got involved I've been around the business my whole life. It's been one of those things from the time I'm a baby, Barry. I've been, dragged around to appointments, and I've just always kind of been around it. I can remember as a kid being in the office late at night and, helping and getting involved and, just learning the ins and the outs of the business. And after college, I had come and got involved in a real meaningful way. I started at the bottom as just an everyday agent like everybody else did. And then, I loved it. It's just something about the business, it's something new every day. It's never the same day, 25 years strong now. And I don't think I've ever had 2 days that were exactly the same. So, I kind of took the company and scaled it and, took it to a little bit of a different level. And we developed a consulting division and a healthy residential and commercial division. And, just took some of the tools that are available to us today, and we opened up different opportunities for the company. So we do a little bit of everything, but it's been a hell of a ride, man. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, awesome. Well, definitely plenty of stuff for us to talk about there for sure. But out of interest, what does your company do? What do you said a little bit of everything, but do you guys invest? Do you guys sell? What do you guys, what is the bulk of your business, you'd say?
Yeah, so the mothership, as I like to call it, is Casandra Properties. That's where all of the opportunities funnel through. Real estate is so unique in that it opens doors you never dreamed you would have open to you. So through the mothership, we do traditional brokerage. So we do complex commercial deals. We do a lot of deals through what's called RFPs, requests for proposals, through the city and the state. A lot of land development deals. And we also have a full-blown residential division, which is just your typical resi stuff. We have a very strong investment sales division. So the multifamilies, I know your sweet spot. We do quite a bit of that work, and we do a lot of consulting. So, and then through that entity, we do a lot of investing. We do, a lot of entitlement work, pre-dev work, a lot of consulting work. We do some commercial financing. We do consulting now for a whole host of different businesses, sanitation businesses, restaurants. Again, it just kind of opens up so many doors, and there's so many opportunities. So every day it feels like there's something new.
Yeah, you got plenty of stuff on your plate then. You don't have no trouble staying busy, I'm guessing, by the sounds of that. But give us then out there in Staten Island, maybe a little bit about the state of the market in terms of both commercial and residential.
Sure. So in context of coronavirus, we did actually pretty well. Staten Island is a borough of New York City. For those who, your listeners who are not familiar, there's the 5 boroughs, Manhattan, of course, being Manhattan. And then, we've always kind of been the forgotten borough. We're a different demography, different, composition of building typology. So Staten Island has always kind of been the one-off, borough. And over the last, I'd say 10 to 15 years, and we've played a big part of this, and we spent a lot of time and energy trying to introduce the borough to investors that traditionally wouldn't consider Staten Island. And that's been a nice, steady process of raising awareness and bringing different types of investors in. And then when coronavirus hit, because we're a short, free 22, 23-minute ride to Manhattan by boat, and we are so close to the epicenter for jobs, but there is still, kind of the suburban opportunities here as well. As people started to divest from certain parts of the city and they were looking for a little bit more elbow room, Staten Island became a really, really viable option. So the residential market has been strong, a lot of growth. In spite of coronavirus, we're up with pricing. We're down with time on market. We're down with inventory. So it's been steady growth in spite of the challenges. And on the commercial side, it's been, I wouldn't call it growth, but it's held, which, for where we are, the commercial market has gotten really hit hard. I mean, numbers are way down across the board. We signed 4 new leases last month in one of the shopping centers that we represent. So there is a healthy backfill. And again, I wouldn't call it growth, but it's been steady and steady right now for commercial real estate in New York City. We'll take it all day long.
Yeah, because more in the city itself, I'm guessing commercial has taken a much bigger hit, right? I don't know if you keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on there.
Yeah, it's, across the board, from the multifamilies to retail, office buildings. For years now, there's been kind of a decentralization of real estate in New York City. And, we wrote about this years ago, where as companies were streamlining and seeking opportunities to skinny up, and companies were using technology and using that as a way to reach the customer, particularly retailers. Mm-hmm. These loss leader kind of Fifth Avenue deals that you couldn't kind of wrap your head around, that the real estate was so expensive. Those started to fall off the board. And, retailers pretty quickly realized, for a fraction of what we're spending in this loss leader location, we could reach our customers direct on the cell phone, the exact demographic that we want at the exact time with the exact message. So as they started to seek more affordable opportunities, you started to see some of that contraction in New York City. And then, of course, when coronavirus hit, it just accelerated, all of these things. And companies are really embracing the work at home model. And, that's why you see so many of these other cities now, the top 5 growing cities, if you went back 10, 15 years ago, you would never have guessed it. But folks are opting now for a little bit more quality in their life. They're looking to get away from kind of the craziness that comes along with being in the city, and they're seeking other opportunities. So it's it's an interesting transformation.
Yeah, and how is commercial multifamily held up then? And when you're saying commercial in general, I'm guessing are you talking office and retail, or were you including multifamily in that as well?
Yeah, so office and retail, multifamily is seeing a shift also, not for the reasons I mentioned earlier, but legislative threats have, become enough of the consideration in your SWOT analysis that folks are opting to divest from certain parts of that portfolio also. It's become more and more challenging, and the legislation has had a pretty significant impact on that market.
Yeah, by legislation, you mean rent control or?
Yeah, a lot of the rules around particularly making investments, the capital investments to improve apartments. The rules changed about a year and a half ago, and whereas you were able to take deductions against a significant amount of that improvement, you can't anymore. So the tax benefit of being in that business isn't what it was before. So with that, you have a series of folks that are pulling back from it. And on the tenancy side, and look, the legislation is all well intended, and I think some of it serves the city well, but some of it also has just kind of pushed to the limits. When the landlords are feeling that they haven't been adequately represented in some of the legislative changes, and it's become the rights have certainly shifted in a significant way back toward the tenants. That has to appear in the investment decision, right? These are things that you have to contemplate before you exchange into a new building, or you pursue that next endeavor. There's only so far you can kind of push the envelope before you see those cap rates start to change, and the investment alternatives start to become more viable.
Yeah. And I'd be interested, just out of interest, and this is more of a high level question, but what are cap rates looking at like that? I know cap rates aren't essentially the most important thing in the deal, but that's what a lot of people look at, right? That's where pricing comes from. So what, on a B class asset in a B class area in Staten Island, roughly what are we looking at in terms of cap rate?
A B class investment in Staten Island, you're probably around 7%.
Oh, really? Okay. Oh, that's,
yeah.
That's pretty good. And do you think, so that's quite a high cap rate nationally, you know what I mean? In a lot of markets, you'll struggle to get a 7 even on a C class. And I know in the hotter markets, you're paying a 4% on a C class a lot of times. So that's interesting. But that's all a result, you think, of everything that you just spoke about, the legislation and not being such an attractive place to necessarily buy multifamily.
Yeah, that certainly is a product of that. Of course, coronavirus also, but for the single, like the AAA single tenant, no elbow grease, just collect your check kind of land lease deal. There was a period in time where they dropped down even into the 3s and low 4s, and I feel like you're starting to see those deals in the 5s now. So that's kind of what everything gets measured off of.
So in a way, then, do you think there's some opportunity in Staten Island for investors to come in and get a great return, considering what's...
Yeah, Staten Island has got a ton of opportunity. We're still very underutilized as far as some of our land assets that we have out here. There's an awful lot of opportunity in the M zone properties, manufacturing. Again, coronavirus accelerated the need to have micro logistics centers in Center City. It accelerated the need, and with the political climate now, opportunities to put in green energy options. We do have some big tracts of land. We're a suburb of New York City, but there are several, parcels that are 100 acres plus.
Wow.
So there's still quite a bit of development opportunity here.
Wow, yeah, that's really interesting. So, you said that when you took over the business and you've been at it 25 years now, you've kind of grown it, right? And I'm sure it was little by little, but what are some of the biggest things that you've done, you think, to grow your business?
Oh gosh, there's been so many things, over the years that we've done. It's all been kind of grassroots initiatives. We've tried to put more structure around the company and formalize a commercial division and formalize residential division and the consulting division. So I think as you kind of formalize those opportunities and you have a clearer mission statement and you're able to communicate more clearly with your people, it gives the opportunity for growth. Real estate industry is not always known as being the most structured industry. So out here, we've excelled we really built our name around being the go-to for complex commercial deals, and then everything kind of traded off of that.
So you guys have been known for, so when you say complex commercial deals, maybe do you have an example or something that you can talk about so that people, see how you guys are able to structure things?
Sure.
Yeah.
For example, as I had mentioned earlier, we do a lot of RFP work. So an investor had come that was based out of Long Branch, New Jersey, and they wanted to do a multifamily project in Staten Island. So we took them through a ULURP process, which is the city planning roadmap that you have to go through to secure a very complex set of approvals during the pre-development period to get your entitlements in place so that you can go ahead and build. I mean, unlike other places where oftentimes there's as-of-right zoning and you can walk in with a set of prints and inside of 60 or 90 days get your approvals. We're involved in projects that take 2 and 3 years to get through the entitlement process. So we became experts in the ULURP process, and we started to do a lot of consulting work for companies that were looking for these larger scale opportunities and walking them through that process and then handling the end product. In one instance, the one I referenced earlier, we ended up getting an 865 unit building approved. So all of the leasing that went, after the fact. In another instance, we did an outlet center out here in Staten Island. We did all the leasing for that project as well after we were done. So, I mean, it's a long, slow burn to get the big projects done. And, that's where kind of the consulting stuff was born out of. And, we have a unique way of approaching our systems and keeping things really organized and efficient. And that's, led to a significant amount of value for our clients. So, we've kind of become the go-to company for that sort of stuff.
Yeah, but how do you get to these type of projects, right? Is it just word of mouth? Because I'm guessing you're not advertising on Facebook or Zillow or something like that. If someone's building an 800 plus unit, you know what I mean? That's a ginormous apartment complex, right? Is it just word of mouth? Have you built your reputation, or is there other ways that you guys are getting in front of these people?
Yeah, so it's become word of mouth for the most part in securing the clients. After you've done a few and you've had some success, you build a reputation like anything else. Mm-hmm. And as big as the investment community is in New York, the pool that handles really the large scale development stuff is kind of small, actually. Mm-hmm. So once you crack into that network and you deliver, we've been blessed and, we've done some good work for our clients and it's translated for us. We've been able to do a lot of good work for a lot of good folks out here. So.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Once you have that reputation, right, that's great. It's just that people know. And like you said as well, it's a good point. There's not many people building 800 unit apartment complex, right? It's not that everyday occurrence that kind of property gets built. So yeah, your pool of people are there. You've been around a while, right? I'd be interested to hear your take on things today, right? Because you've seen, as I think we talked about off air, you've seen 9/11, you've seen 2008, you've seen Hurricane Sandy, you've seen this pandemic, right? You've seen a lot of stuff happen over the years. And I'd be interested to hear your take on if you see any similarities to what's going on to anything in the past, if you see any patterns that you're able to recognize, and if you're able to, obviously not predict the future, nobody has any idea about that, but just see anything about what's going on today and able to decipher it at all.
Yeah. So, history is our teacher. And as you go through, these, we were kind of joking off air, these once in a lifetime events, and we're on our fourth in our business career. You certainly, there's lessons from the past. Without question, I think the most valuable lesson that we've been able to rely on is not to get caught up in the moment. It gets intense, and it gets there's a lot of pressure surrounding these types of events, and it's very easy to fall into a pattern of especially in today's day and age, where you're hit with news constantly from every source. It's everywhere, it's relentless, and it's easy to get knocked off your mark and to start decisioning based on the moment, instead of based on what we've come to rely on, which is a time-tested approach of these things will pass. This one was different. We've never experienced a pandemic, obviously, but pandemics have a finite end. If again, if history is your teacher, they do come to an end. These things do pass. And, I think that we're taking the first step toward the end now. I think New York City is gearing up to administer 1 million vaccines in January, which is a heroic effort. And as herd immunity continues to build up, I believe we're headed for a period that we've never experienced. So, we're social creatures by nature, Barry. Like we want to be out, right? We want to be enjoying our lives. We want to be at a concert, at a show, having a drink. We want to get back to living our lives. So I feel like there's a fog that's kind of been, bestowed upon all of us. And as we emerge from this thing, I believe that there's going to be a renewed spirit. I believe that there's going to be a greater and deeper appreciation for life. I think that people are going to look to live. And that means folks are going to be out and they're going to be enjoying themselves and they're going to be spending. And I think we're in for a rip of a couple of years that is going to be unprecedented.
That's fascinating, because there's definitely no doubt about it. There's some pent-up demand, right? That's just been going on for a while now, that people are just, like you said, want to get out and go for a beer, go talk to people, go do stuff, right? It's just in our nature, I think, as human beings to want to do those things. So yeah, cool, man. I appreciate you sharing that. So you guys also invest. I think you said that you guys have an investment arm as well. What do you guys invest in?
So we do quite a few different things. I think what we probably do best is the pre-development stuff. Again, taking these complicated land deals. We do a lot of assemblage work, grabbing 3, 4, 5. We've done, I think, as high as 11 or 12 lots in one closing, and assembling, a larger parcel and then applying a vision to it based on the zoning. So a lot of times we'll play that role in an investment group where, we have a project right now that's a 62 unit project that we're involved in. And then we have the one-offs, the smaller stuff, the fix and flips. And there's not much multifamily housing in bulk in Staten Island. You could probably count on your two hands buildings that are over 100 units. There's the condo complexes and co-op complexes, but as far as the multifamily rentals, we don't have that massive stock that the other boroughs have. So a lot of the investment work out here, at least on our end, is centered around the land stuff, the ground up, getting through the entitlement process, and putting a vision to something, or reconceiving something that the previous party just didn't contemplate, as they were evaluating the site. So we do a lot of that stuff, and it's exciting. You get to take a project or take a piece and grow it, and then put a vision behind it and go through the entitlement and then watch it come to life, and it's built, and you get to place the tenants or sell off parts of it. It's a lot of fun. It's exciting.
So you guys have a management arm as well to your business that manages these
properties? No, we don't self-manage. We have some assets where we work alongside the management companies, but that's one thing we've never done. If you don't do it in massive scale, it's hard to be profitable, and there's just not that big of a tranche of units to manage out here, to be honest. We don't get into the PUDs and that type of stuff, and those are specialty management groups. So for us, that's the one thing we've kind of stayed away from.
What's a PUD?
A planned urban development. It's like the
Okay.
condo projects.
Okay.
We have
There's
a
a lot
lot
of
of
terms.
those.
There's definitely a lot of terms in Staten Island real estate that isn't necessarily that common in in real estate. I've heard a lot of stuff today that I've never heard before, but that's really cool. I really like that. So a lot of these projects that you guys are seeing through, what are they? Do they vary from office space to multifamily to mixed use, or do they all have a common theme? Are they residential properties?
Yeah, it runs the whole gamut, like I was saying earlier, we've got a 65 house or 62 house subdivision that'll be $1 million, single family homes. We've done the 900 unit multifamilies. We did Staten Island's first and only outlet center. It's a pretty wide berth. The process is pretty much the same for the pre-dev stuff, going through the entitlements. So for us, it doesn't really make a difference what the end product is going to be. It's navigating that the complex web of agency involvement that we really specialize in. But to us, it really doesn't make a difference. It could be a micro logistics center. It could be a multifamily. It's still the same Mueller pathway for the overwhelming majority of the projects. So.
And then what are those rivers that you're trying to navigate? Is it legality? Is it?
It's agencies, DOT, so Department of Transportation, right? DOT, DEP, DEC, DCP, ACOE. I mean, it just, the acronyms go on and on and on and on. And each agency has its own jurisdiction and its own set of rules. And oftentimes, all of the agencies have a seat at a particular table, and each agency has their own mission and things they're trying to advance. And oftentimes, agencies' requirements are in conflict with each other. So navigating that process and negotiating with the different agencies and trying to land on a harmonious vision that gives each agency what they need and still leaves a viable product for the developer and still leaves a viable product for the community. That's the beauty of it, and that's the complexity of these transactions. Is there's so many agencies that have jurisdiction that it's as I'm talking about it, I'm like, wow, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of
sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, it's not so bad. I mean, it's different, but it's just the system here. It's just the process. So
yeah, no, and obviously you guys understand it and you know how to work it. But for someone, I guess, and it's similar. I'm guessing it's similar in New York, right? And that's why people say you can't just go to New York and start a business, start an investing firm, right? You can't just start investing in real estate because you've got to know all these things, right? Unless you know all these people and how they work and what they're looking for and how to navigate those waters, you're never going to get anything done, I guess.
It's a unique market. There's no question about it. It's a challenging market. It's a fiercely competitive market, but it's New York, so it's rewarding at the end of the day.
Yeah. It's a pretty cool place to be investing in. I'm sure that's no doubt about that. Cool. Well, hey, thank you so much for giving us the insight into all that, man. Really interesting what you guys are doing. And like I said, I've never so many terms today that I've never heard before. Usually you hear a lot of the same stuff. So it's really cool to hear some different stuff and like just get an insight into how things work over there. So that's fascinating. I really appreciate it, man. But as this show is called Wrestling with Real Estate, I like to incorporate some wrestling related real estate questions. So the first question is, what would your wrestling name be if you picked one for yourself, you think?
Well, I have Petey here in the background. Petey saying the closer. No, that's my move. That's going to be my finishing move. I don't know. My specialty is exactly that. I'm a closer. I've been blessed with the ability to see multiple sides of a transaction and find the common ground. So I'm not quite sure how do we roll that up into one word or one term. The finisher, I don't know. But the closer is definitely my move, right? I'm not sure. I guess what do we call it, Petey? The finisher? Am I the finisher? The closer?
I like the call. You can be called the closer.
The closer?
Yeah, you can call yourself a closer. I like that. But then,
Yeah.
so then that brings me to the next question. You can maybe elaborate a little bit more on it. But every wrestler has a special move. What is your special move in real estate?
Well, I'm sounding redundant now, right? But that's what it is for me. That's my specialty, is
Yeah.
organizing and closing. That's where we've excelled. I'm trying to think of like Undertaker ties in, because I'm just a huge Undertaker fan.
Yeah.
But they're not there. I don't see the parallels.
Don't worry about it. But how did you learn that skill? Do you think, is it just time, and what was there anything in particular that you did to try and learn the skill of closing?
The closing stuff, I think it's honestly, not to sound cliche, but I think it's in your DNA. There's just a different skill set to be able to bring deals over that finish line, especially when you have the complexities that we have here. Mom is a killer closer. She still is. So certainly having the advantage of watching her, over the last, 25 years, I'm in it officially, but 15 years at least, that I could remember before that. That certainly has paved the way for me. But there's just a unique way about being able to see that common thread amongst what is often a very difficult, and sometimes it's like you're solving a Gordian knot, but there is that common thread in there somewhere. And that's really been my specialty, without a doubt.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
The signature. My move's the signature. I like that, Pete.
You get the signature, yeah. I'm sure, like you said, right, your mom has a lot to do with that, right? There's credit to your mom for that. She sounds like an amazing woman. What's been the biggest body slam you've taken in your real estate investing career?
Oof. Okay, without getting into too many details, when I first started, I would say this was in my first 3 or 4 years in the business. I had put together, even back then, we were doing more complicated assemblages. And I had put together for a developer a really nice job that we ended up with 20 or 30 homes on. We're going back a tick here. But I was young and I was naive and I was excited. And the end game in this business on the real estate side is, if you bring the land and you're able to negotiate that deal, your company gets the listings back and you get to sell the end product. That's how you keep everybody busy and you keep everyone in business. So it was one of those arrangements where, oh, you're like a son to me, and I would never hurt you, and everything was great. And I was, again, young and naive, and I don't need to sign anything. I'm a man of my word. Long story short, we close the deal. They do exceedingly well. I show up the next day, all excited with my listing papers to get these things listed up. And Barry, it was like, they looked at me like I had 3 heads. They were like, I don't know what you're talking about. We never talked about this. And it was like, it's even now, I get upset thinking about it. Now I get pissed, to be honest. Back then I was upset that I took them for their word, and I kind of fell into that trap of letting my wits get away from me, and it being a feel-good experience. At that point, it was the largest deal I had ever done. And I ended up losing 30 some odd listings to this developer because they just had the opportunity to do it with somebody else cheaper. And that was a hard lesson to learn. That was a tough one.
Yeah. I'm sorry that happened, man, but I guess sometimes you learn from the hard lessons sometimes, right? That's the tough part.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah. Well, was there a moment that you were standing on the top rope getting ready to jump, but you were too scared? What was it, and how did you overcome it?
Oh boy. Gosh, I feel like that's been a big part of the last 10 years in real estate. Now, I'm not trying to dodge the question, Barry, but technology has changed our business in such a profound way. I mean, the podcast, right? By nature, I'm an introvert. The company has had a lot of success, and there's been a lot of accolades that have come along with it, but I've always been quiet and reserved. And to think, if we went back 3 or 4 years ago and told me that I'd be doing podcasts weekly and, recordings, and I would tell you, you're crazy. We co-authored a book this year something also I would have never, ever dreamed that I would have done. But I think that that's the beauty of technology too, is that it pulls you out of your comfort zone. And, you actually talked about this on one of your shows recently. There's no excuse anymore. Like everything is at our fingertips. There's so much knowledge out there, and there's so much opportunity out there, but it does feel oftentimes like you're on the top rope and you're getting ready to drop an elbow, and, you're just not sure because there's so many things. It feels like every week there's a new system or a new technology that my CMO is coming to me with, that it's hard to keep up, man. It's changing and disrupting our industry at such a crazy pace. But I think that's also part of what sets you apart. I'm not afraid to fail. I used to be. Fear is something that drove me for years because I wouldn't get out of my comfort zone. So the fear of not being the hardest worker, or the fear of someone outperforming me, drove me. But that's also got a very destructive side to it. And now it's almost like I welcome the opportunity to fail. Like I'm willing to try anything. And, again, it's like you're always at the proverbial top rope, but it's pretty cool when you do nail that elbow, and you do take the leap. I mean, that's good stuff.
Yeah, no. And I think what it is as well is like successful people, they're always putting themselves in that position, right? To be on that top row, right? If you're always never climbing, never trying, never putting those in those positions, well, are you improving yourself as a person? Are you growing your business? Are you evolving as a person, right? And if you're not in the, in an uncomfortable position, well, you're not pushing yourself hard enough, I don't think so. Yeah, I think it's an ever ongoing process of you jump off and then you like find another rope that you need to drive, and you just got to keep jumping. And it's as hard as it is. And trust me, I challenge myself all the time and put myself in that position a lot of times. I'm like, why did I done this again? But every time you jump, you're so happy. I am anyway. I'm so happy that I did, and that growth that comes with that as well is so cool. So yeah, man, that's awesome. So yeah, and the technology, man, is so crazy. I'm having trouble keeping up with myself. I'm not the best with technology, but you've got to, right? Otherwise, you're going to be left in the dust, right? Everyone else is keeping up, and podcasts and Instagram and everything new that's coming along. You've got to keep up with it. Otherwise, you're missing opportunities and you'll be left behind, I feel like.
Yeah, if you're not innovating and you're not disrupting while it's being disrupted, we're rolling out an app soon that I think is going to be a game changer in the industry. If you're not taking those chances now, it's over. I mean, you have to do it, and you have to embrace it. You have to love it because it's constant.
Yeah, for sure. Well, James, hey, thank you so much for making time today, man. I really appreciate it. What a fun conversation, man. An interesting, really, really interesting conversation. So I really appreciate it, man. But before we go, can you plug your podcast, your company? How can people get a hold of you? How can people hear more about you guys and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So it's the Casandra Properties podcast. The website is CasandraProperties.com. And of course, we're on all of the social channels. Feel free to reach out, and again, it's so neat. Some of the comments, suggestions, ideas that you get through these channels. Some people some people you don't. It's just awesome. It's good stuff. So we love it. We welcome people to come check us out. And yeah, man, good stuff. I appreciate the time with you tonight.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for the conversation. That was a great conversation. So enjoy the rest of the evening out there in Staten Island, and thank you so much for being on, man.
Thanks, Barry.